Okay, should we get started then? I think as Emma says, we have got a few more people coming in, but we've got quite a lot to get through today. So let's kick off, shall we? Well, first of all, thank you for everybody for introducing yourselves in the chat. It's really great to see where you're all based and where you're joining us from. Welcome to this webinar on Libraries and Refugee Week. I'm James. I'm the Commons and Advocacy Manager at Libraries Connected. And it's great to see so many of you here, so many signed up. It feels particularly important right now to be celebrating the contributions of refugees and the importance of offering sanctuary and safety to those fleeing persecution. And that's why we've always supported Refugee Week at Libraries Connected. And we usually actually have a webinar during Refugee Week itself in June. But obviously that means that doing it in June means it's sort of too late for people to plan their events by that point. So we've held it a bit earlier this year, and hopefully that will give you time to use some of the ideas and inspiration that will be shared today. So we've got two brilliant speakers, and then we'll have time for a discussion after that. So I'll hand over to our first speaker now, I think, and that's Lara Deffense, who is Refugee Week UK coordinator. So Lara, over to you.
Thank you so much, James, and thank you so much, Libraries Connected, for organising today. It's so brilliant to see so many people, and just seeing where everyone is calling from, I think, is just so much the spirit of Refugee Week that is just bigger than the sum of its parts, and really feels like a movement of people coming together to make Refugee Week happen, basically. So I'm really happy to be here today and share a little bit more about Refugee Week. And I'll start from the very beginning. So I know a lot of people will be very familiar with the festival, so I apologize if I'm repeating anything that you're well familiar with. But yeah, Refugee Week is the world's largest arts and culture festival that celebrates the contributions, creativity, and resilience of people who seek sanctuary. It's been running in the UK for this will be the 26th festival, but it's increasingly an international movement as well. Last year, there was Refugee Week activity happening in over 17 countries. Just on this call today is my colleague Tomo. She's on an exchange from Japan, is thinking about how maybe we can make Refugee Week happen in Japan. So it's just really exciting. This model of basically it's an open platform. Anyone can take part wherever you are in the world, no matter how much time, whether you have 5 minutes, 5 weeks, or 5 months to prepare what your involvement looks like. And it's an open platform, which means we have people taking part from sports clubs to high streets to arts organizations, artists, anything from an individual to an organization. Everyone is welcome to take part. And I always say that there's three main ways that people can take part, and that's firstly just supporting what's happening in your local community, in your local area, whether that's just attending events and finding out what's on, or just volunteering in the run up. The second is to do a simple act, which I'll get onto. And the third is to hold your own event and activity. So I'll get into that as well. But I guess what makes Refugee Week really special, and I think it's these two pillars. The first is the arts and cultures at the heart of Refugee Week. And the second is that it's genuinely community powered. So we all make Refugee Week happen. Last year, there was over 9,500 events and activities in the UK alone, and 1.1 million people took part. And so we just want that to be bigger and bigger every year. So yeah, so I'll get into talking a little bit about this year's theme. So I'm just going to talk through the website because I think the website's a really helpful one-stop shop for everything, and it's easy to then be able to send the link to people in your networks or your community. So in about and theme, you'll read about this year's theme, which is home, our home. And what's really been emerging is this idea of home at three levels. At the first level is this idea of home at the personal level, thinking about our bodies as our bodies as our sanctuaries. So thinking about mental health and well-being, but also thinking about the things that remind us of home, whether it's music or food or fashion or language. But obviously also raising awareness as to why people are forced to flee their homes. At the second level is thinking of home at the community level. So thinking about what is each of our individual roles and responsibility in making whole neighborhoods more welcoming, whether that's through simple acts or a whole community coming together, but also using it as an opportunity, specifically here in the UK, to raise awareness to the fact that lots of people in our communities are not living in something that you would call a home. So really raising awareness about the really just dire accommodation practices and hostile accommodation and housing practices that exist in the UK, whether it's asylum hotels or detention centres. And then at the third level is thinking about our shared interconnected home and our shared home, planet Earth. So raising awareness and creating better discussions and conversations about the intersection of climate justice and displacement. Um, and so really the theme is an invitation. It's never an obligation. No one has to use the theme in their planning, but it's there as a resource and an inspiration if it helps to maybe think about, if you're, especially with libraries, thinking about maybe particular books that you want to have on display or events that you might want to curate. That's a little bit about the theme. And now I'm just going to take us, what's on is the calendar. So you'll see that we have a few events already. When when your events are ready, you can submit them and people can search them through City. So just to get a sense of the kind of volume of places taking part in Refugee Week, you can see this was all the towns, villages, and cities that submitted events last year. So over 130 just in the UK alone. And you can also change here and see by map view. So put in a postcode and see what events are coming up near you. So that's a really nice function of a new website function we have for this year. So taking us to the take part aspect of the take part section of the website. As I mentioned, there's 3 ways to take part, which is support local, do a simple act, or hold your own event and activity. So I'm just going to take us to the simple acts page. And simple acts are simple, everyday actions anyone can do to stand in solidarity with refugees and make new connections in our communities. This year there's 9, and I won't click on every single page, but I'll just read them out, which is watch a film. So you'll see their recommendations for short films, documentaries, feature length films, and TV shows. Discover a story about books and podcasts and audiobooks. Share the message about using social media to amplify the Refugee Week message. Make a new connection all about maybe befriending services or volunteering opportunities. Share meals all about food and celebrating home through food. Walk Together is actually a partnership that we do with the Joe Cox Foundation. The More in Common Network, they do the Great Get Together, which overlaps dates wise with the Refugee Week. So people can do the Great Walk Together, which is doing walks of solidarity, whether it's with your own community or making connections across communities. Care for Our Home is this thinking about our global home, planet Earth. So raising awareness about a brilliant activists and people working in this intersection of climate justice and displacement, but also encouraging people to nurture their relationship with nature, whether it's going on walks or doing kind of reflection journals or whatever it might be. Getting active is all about getting active through movement and well-being. So really that idea of our bodies as our homes, but also finding connection through sports and activity. And Join the Movement is Refugee Week lasts just 7 days, but how can we keep this conversation alive all year round, and signposting to really brilliant initiatives of how you can continue to put your solidarity into action throughout the year. And I know we'll have someone who's just become a library of sanctuary, and that's a brilliant way to carry on beyond the week. And then lastly, I will just share this year's resources. So if you do want to hold your own event, there's lots of brilliant guidance and advice and inspiration on how you can do that. The event organizer pack really takes you from like A to Z of organizing an event, things you should have in your mind, whether it's if you need to apply for funding or you want to work in partnership or you're interested in lived experience leadership or participatory decision making. There's some good prompts for further thought there. For children and young people as well, some resources there. And this is a new initiative that we're working on this year, which is all these resources on the bottom, thinking about how do we bring Refugee Week onto the high streets and activate the high streets. And so this is a new pack which libraries and bookshops are welcome to use this year. I'll just flick through quickly. So it has a little bit about what Refugee Week is, our impact. So like I mentioned, the reach of last year's event, festival, a little bit about this year's theme of home and ways to take part. So this kind of digests to like a much more kind of straightforward thing that you can send out to people. So we're encouraging bookshops and libraries to share the message, discover a story, which is one of the simple acts, and display your solidarity, or become a home away from home and become a home for Refugee Week. Share the message might be simple things like sharing the message on social media through the hashtags, or sharing through your newsletters, or just telling your colleagues about it, whether you have a staff bulletin or an intranet or a staff forum. Discover a Story is one of this year's simple acts, like I pulled out earlier. And this might be curating a book display or just on social media, having a Refugee Week special. Um, and this is really open for people's own creativity and research. But we do flag books on the Simple Acts page on the Discover a Story. There's lots of book recommendations that we put on there. Display your solidarity is encouraging people to share their solidarity on window displays. We do have the Refugee Week shop, which is open, and it has free posters and free postcards. Anyone can order. So the postcards and posters are free, but we just ask for a contribution towards postage and packaging, and that's just a flat rate, which you'll see. But you can be more creative and think about creating your own displays, and maybe it's collaborating with a local artist or a local group and thinking about it that way. And then the last one is to become a venue for Refugee Week. So this idea of becoming a home away from home, whether it's maybe an art exhibition or doing a film screening, whatever it might be, open to people's ideas and capacity and resource. So that's a little bit of that that resource, which everyone can access by going to Take Part and Resources. We also have the news and blog page on our website, which is really fantastic for just opportunities. We get contacted by so many brilliant artists and projects, and we tend to try to showcase them here. For example, we're working with this film curators called Other Cinemas. They're going to be curating short films and feature length films, which will have all the rights and licensing paid for, so people can access these films for free during Refugee Week, and I think for maybe a week before. And we'll be releasing the titles soon. So it might be that you want to actually just play these short films during Refugee Week at no cost. But yeah, there's loads of other projects. For example, in the mix is a supper club event that are looking for partner venues. And also, I'd recommend signing up to the Refugee Week newsletter. Sometimes we'll get contacted by an artist looking for venue space. Maybe they've received Arts Council funding and they have the funding, they just need a space to showcase their art. So we do share those opportunities through the Refugee Week newsletter as well. And this is the Refugee Week shop. So you can order the A3 poster or the postcard, A6 postcard, that has a little bit of information at the back, what Refugee Week is, this year's theme, and the 3 ways that you can take part. And then all the digital assets for free. I'm so sorry, I don't know if I'm going over time, but I'll just wrap up in 60 seconds. I'll just share this digital pack, which if you go on our website and click this link here, it will take you to this Google Drive folder, which is open to everyone. And you'll see that there is posters, postcards that you can print if you don't want to order through the shop. And also, which is really sweet, you'll be able to find all the individual elements from the design. So if anyone in your social media team or anyone is feeling creative, last year we had so many lovely DIY marketing campaigns that people are welcome to use these really beautiful illustrations by the artist Manjit Thap. Also have the Refugee Week logos. So if you do have your own posters and flyers, you can create your own. And simple acts illustrations, which are actually GIFs that you can access here in a different kind of formats, with the logo, without the logo, with as illustrations, not illustrations, how whatever you fancy basically. So all of them together. So yeah, well, everyone's welcome to use these to promote your own Refugee Week activities if it's helpful. So I think that's it for me. I'll just share that this is the postcards have just arrived and they're really sweet. And so yeah, looking forward to seeing them all over the place. That's it from me, and I'm available for any questions that anyone might have.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Laura. I love the idea that it's sort of so democratic to take part, and that you're making all those resources available, particularly the design elements, because sometimes you find that with sort of national campaigns and events, people can be very protective of their sort of their assets, but you're sort of putting them all out there for anyone to use. And I think that's really great. Just to say that there will be time for discussion later. So if you have questions for Lara now, could you just pop them in the chat, and then we'll get to those a little bit later. But thanks again to Lara for that. There's so many great ideas. Sorry, were you about to say something?
No, I was just going to say there's no problem. Oh, one thing I did forget to say is just I think one of the things that make Refugee Week really, really unique is that it is a celebration. And I think it is this joy-filled spirit of Refugee Week that brings so many people together every year. And that's not to say that it can't be a container for all conversations, but I do think that that's what it's the spirit of Refugee Week. It's everyone on this call and all the contributions from all the years before that. It's just really, really special. And I think, yeah, I just wanted to say that. And I think the spirit of, those beautiful designs that the artist is happy to share, it's just it feels like a very generous movement. And so, yeah, thank you so much to everyone for everything you've done and everything you'll do this year as well. It's really, really grateful. And yeah, I'll be until the end of the course, so here for questions.
Brilliant, thank you, Lara. Okay, so time for our next speaker now, who is Sarah Moth. She is Service Development Lead at Essex Libraries, and we'll be hearing about Essex Libraries' journey to be the latest library service to join the Libraries of Sanctuary programme, and also their own plans to mark Refugee Week later this year. So I'll hand over to Sarah now. Thank you.
Thanks, James. And I'm here today with my colleagues Mary Frake and Kirsty Kemp, who've also worked on getting the sanctuary status for Essex, and we'll all be available to field any questions afterwards. So Emma, if you could share. Thank you. Right, so I'm just going to talk about our journey to become a service of sanctuary, and then I'll talk about our plans for Refugee Week. The next slide, please, Emma. Right, so what is a library of sanctuary? It's the library that extends a welcome to new arrivals in its area, and that has worked to remove any barriers to using their services. Status is awarded by the City of Sanctuary UK, and it's a national award that libraries can apply for, and a recognition the service has developed its offer in this area. So next slide. So why become a library of sanctuary? The first reason for us was that it was a good thing to do. People seeking sanctuary are some of the most vulnerable people in our society, and they face ongoing hurdles to establish themselves in our country. Library services are well placed to extend a welcome to refugees, and sadly we hear that they often face opposition and distrust, and we as library services, can we play a part in countering that? We can also show them that we warmly welcome them to use our buildings and services and provide a safe space for them. And our services are a good fit too. We have a lot of free services. It's possible to get online via us, borrow free books, use our e-services, spend time in our buildings without having to spend any money, and feel a connection with others and the community. And we can also signpost to useful organisations. But there are also benefits to libraries for getting the status. The City of Sanctuary lists the key benefits on their website: extending the reach of libraries, strengthening and extending partnership working, affirming the library as a community hub, and gaining recognition from elected members and senior officers that the library services can deliver key council priorities. So although for us, the driver to become a library of sanctuary was for the benefits to sanctuary seekers, we actually can see that by getting the status, we've had those benefits as well to our service. Next slide, please. So I'm just going to give a quick overview of how to become a library of sanctuary and say a bit about what we did. So the starting point is to study the City of Sanctuary website. There's loads of information on there. To get the status, you need to develop your services for people seeking sanctuary. And then when you're ready, you need to fill in an application form to demonstrate you've met the required criteria. So their criteria is learn, embed, and share. Learn is find out what it means to be seeking sanctuary. Embed is taking positive action to make welcome and inclusion part of the values of your organisation, to support sanctuary seekers and to include them in your activities, and then share your vision and achievements. You can apply for the status for one or more of your libraries or for the whole service. Next slide, please. So the first stage for us was to learn what it means to be seeking sanctuary. We held training for staff at our largest libraries, delivered by John Vincent, who is the author of the Libraries for Sanctuary Resource Pack. This is a toolkit for libraries wanting to apply for the status. And in the training, John talked about what it meant to be seeking sanctuary. So our staff were able to get an insight into the issues that people who are seeking sanctuary face. We followed this up with in-house shorter training package that was shared with all staff. To embed this training, we've got a Library of Sanctuary page on the staff intranet where we gather together all our materials, book lists, etc. And then to further embed it, we aim to do regular comms out to all staff to sort of drip feed reminders about the status and the services we offer. Next slide, please. A big part of the work that we did was to remove barriers to people seeking sanctuary using our libraries. So we created a new type of membership, Sanctuary Library Card. It doesn't require the usual type of ID that we'd normally ask for, and there's no charges associated with the card either. We produced a welcome information leaflet in plain English using visual images to explain the services, with an emphasis on the free services that people could access. We also translated this flyer plus the joining form into 21 languages, and we worked with partners to identify the languages that were most needed in our communities. And this joining form and this welcome leaflet were absolutely invaluable when joining up people and helping them use our services. We also started longer induction sessions in libraries, so staff could spend more time with customers, joining them and talking about our services. We bought foreign language stock, again working with partners to identify the languages that were needed, and we actually took on a new supplier that could supply good quality stock in these languages. Next slide, please. Partnership working, consultation and outreach were key to developing the service and getting the status. We couldn't have done the consultation and the outreach without working with the partners, and partnership working was essential to meaningfully develop our services for sanctuary seekers. So we worked with organisations supporting refugees and providing information with them so they could share it with their customers. We visited several hotels housing sanctuary seekers where we joined up new members using our new Sanctuary Library Card. By going there, we were showing that we welcomed them into our buildings. We could signpost them to their nearest building, and again we were showing them a welcome and that we hadn't forgotten about them, and showing solidarity. Consultation was also really important. We didn't want to make assumptions when developing the services. So on visits to hotels, we gathered feedback about what was needed, what stock was needed, and any other issues we could help with. We learned that more ESOL stock and resources were needed, so we bought more of this. And we're also able to get some funds from Essex County Council Resettlement Scheme to buy some literacy resources, which we could give out at our visits and leave in the hotel for people to use. Next slide, please. So I'm just going to finish off by just talking about a few tips gained from our experience. So obviously at the outset, you need to get sign off from your head of service and make sure it's embedded in service plans so everyone's on board and seeing it as a priority. I would strongly suggest you keep evidence as you go along, so when you come to do your application you don't have a mammoth task at the end to compile it all, and to look at what's happening in your local area. Any towns or cities or local organisations applying for status that you can link in with and work with. Buy-in from staff across the service is really important, and you might find you've got some people more enthusiastic than others and they can be your advocates for you. And find friends. One of the really good things we did early on was we linked up with Cambridgeshire, Hertfordshire, Norfolk, because they were all looking to apply for status, and we'd meet up regularly, share good practice, tips, and help each other. And again, I can't say it enough, partnership working is really key. So next slide, please. So I'm just going to move on to our plans for Refugee Week this year. So we're planning events in 3 libraries. We're working in partnership with the Mercury Theatre, who've just recently got Theatre of Sanctuary, and Rama, the Refugee, Asylum Seeker and Migrant Action, who we've worked with on our bid, and who are really great partners. So we're developing a storytelling event based on the book My Name Is Not Refugee. So as Lara mentioned earlier, one of the small acts is Discover a Story, and this fits in really well with this. And it was being co-production with one of Rama's clients to develop the story into an event, and we'll have related arts and crafts activity. It will be delivered by Rama's clients as well. And the Mercury is providing the resources. So it'll be a free activity and it'll be open to all. Next slide, please. During Refugee Week, we'll have our weekly meeting of the reading round in Basildon Library. This is, excuse me, a drop-in group. It's fun, it's informal, but people can meet up to improve or learn English. And this is funded by the Royal Literary Fund, who directly train and then fund an author to deliver it. And we're really lucky that we had an author in residence last year, and she was able to, following on from the residency, do this training and deliver these sessions for us. So one of those will be in Refugee Week, so we'll turn that into a bit of a celebration and share about that as well. Next slide, please. So alongside the events, we'll be putting out lots of comms during Refugee Week. We'll create and promote book lists for all ages and share these widely. Some of our bigger libraries will do book displays. So on the slide, you can see the Refugee Week header we had last year that we used from the assets on the Refugee Week website. And as Lara said, they've got loads of really brilliant assets and logos, etc., that you can use for all your content. So also on the slide, I've just put some of the book jackets of the titles that were on our last year's book list. We include fiction and non-fiction. As we all know on the call, I'm sure reading can be a powerful way of building empathy, and books by and about refugees can help people identify with what they face. I've just seen yesterday that the Library Supply Askews has completed a list of books for this year's Refugee Week, so there's ideas on there for books to buy or put on book lists. So as I previously mentioned, part of the criteria to get the status is to share, and Refugee Week is a good opportunity to do that. It will raise a profile of what your service is doing and potentially result in more organisations becoming aware, leading to more partnerships. So this year for us, it'll be an opportunity to share that we've got sanctuary status and highlight our services such as our sanctuary library card, etc. So we'll use all the relevant hashtags and tagging where appropriate, so we potentially get seen and shared more. And we'll also, as Lara said, share newsletters on our staff intranet, forums across the county council to raise the profile as well. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to touch on what we've done in past years as well. In past years, we weren't able to partner up and get people to join up with events, so we decided not to try and do any events because we wanted to make sure that when we did them in co-production. So we did sort of more simple activities last year. So alongside all the book lists and social media campaigns, we had this very simple backpack empathy activity, which we just left out in libraries, in the children's libraries during the week. And it was, it can really help bring things home to people. We had a sheet of things that you might need to take from your home if you were leaving, and you could, what could you fit in your backpack? What would you prioritise? Would you take food? Would you take your pets, etc.? So again, it was another way to build empathy. And we put these outside in our children's library next to our displays for Refugee Week. And another sort of more low-key activity we had last year is that we decided to launch our new foreign language and ESOL collections with an author in residence that we had at the time, and then we could share it on social media, etc. Next slide. So just to say, I've just put a few useful links on there, which I'm sure James and Emma can share afterwards. But just to say that Mary, Kirsty and I are all happy to share any experiences that we've had with the Library Sanctuary, or give support to anyone who's thinking of making a bid or is making a bid at the moment. And that my email's on there if anyone wants to get into contact.
Thank you so much, Sarah. That's so inspiring. Well, congratulations on getting the status as well, which I don't think I've said yet. Should we open it out to questions now? I can see that there are already a couple, and the first one from Heather is almost exactly what I wrote down as well, which is for the 20 to Sarah, for the 21 translations. How did you, practically go about that? How did you choose the 21 languages, and how did you find the reliable translators to do that?
Well, Mary and Kirsty, feel free to jump in, but we worked with partners to identify. We asked them which were, I mean, there were more than 21 languages that we could have done, but obviously we had limited resources and budget to get the translations done. So we just chose the 21 that partners identified as being the most common ones in Essex, and it's not necessarily going to be a static list. We may have to get more as we go along, because it will be changing. But as I said, when we've gone out, particularly when we've gone out with to hotels, they were so invaluable for joining people up, and we were able to give them the welcome leaflet translated into their language. Mary, Kirsty, have you got anything to add?
Yes, so we did them in 2 batches. So the first batch was for languages that were obvious, like Farsi, the most immediate languages for people from countries that we knew about. The second batch was actually for more European countries, where we identified that if people couldn't speak English, they may be able to speak French or Spanish or Italian. And the company we used to do the translation are called Intran, and I'll find them and put them in the link for you.
Thank you for that. And then there was another question. I think also a couple of people asked this about you mentioned about finding new suppliers for non-English language books. Can you say a bit more about that? Who was that, and how did you find them?
Oh, again, Mary, jump in. But we sort of did a bit of market research, and we asked for authorities. We're part of the London Consortium, so we asked colleagues in there, and then the same name kept coming up, which was Books Asia. And they actually go to the countries to get the books. And so he literally had a man with a van driving to Ukraine to get books from Ukraine. So, and it was, we were confident they were good quality books, written by popular authors in those countries. It wasn't just a case of just getting anything in the language. We wanted to get good quality materials.
So our first batch of stock we got from Books Asia was Ukrainian and Russian. We did this by the books arrived, and I was so impressed with the quality of them. They're absolutely beautiful, these books. And it's glorious seeing them in the library because they are not just cheaply made, they're very lovely books. We then set them the target of trying to get us some Dari, Farsi, Arabic, and a few other languages. It was equally challenging. It took a while for them to come through. They still haven't been able to supply us with Dari, but everything else we have asked for, Turkish, etc., we've got a small supply. You can do it two ways. If you go to their website, they do provide book lists on their website with a list of their current stock holdings or books they think they can get hold of. Or in most cases, I have just supplied them with, I would like X amount of books in this language, covering so many for children's non-fiction, adults fiction, etc. So I've given them a remit, and I'm really impressed with the books that have arrived. Yeah, I would recommend them.
Brilliant, thank you. There's another question here from Heather about, you talked about having slightly longer sign-up sessions, induction sessions. Is that, how did you identify who has those longer sessions?
So the induction sessions are held in our officially held in our 4 flagship branches. And we advertise that if people would like an induction session, they just need to attend the library on like every Tuesday at 10 o'clock. An induction session will be available to anybody that arrives. So this isn't just saying it's for sanctuary seekers, it's anybody that may be new to the UK and wants a little bit more guidance. The training that we provided for those sessions and the handouts, so it'd be things like step-by-step guides on how to find certain things like transparent language online, one of our subscriptions, like finding that using our computers. Those documents and that training pack was shared with all of the libraries in Essex. So anyone can provide an induction session if requested or support. It's just those 4, and now actually a 5th library offer them regularly, weekly.
Right, thank you. I've got another question as well, which is about the these sort of almost like focus group sessions that you ran in the hotels. I mean, that's that's obviously like a highly sensitive area. How did you approach that? How did you trust and ensure it was?
Well, we did have a bit of problem. We had to sort of gain partners' trust before they would disclose where the hotels were, and it's almost like we had to sort of, well, just gain trust really, because they have had so much bad press and opposition. And we were lucky enough that we could most times we could go with our mobile library. So we would park. We've got a smaller outreach mobile library. We could park outside, and then we would work with the people that were running the hotels and tell them that we were coming, say when we were coming, and then people could come on the mobile, and it's like a little mini library, and we'd make sure we asked what languages were spoken in that hotel, so we'd get those onto the mobile. We'd have our joining forms in those languages, and then it was a bit of a team where we'd have our mobile driver joining them up, serving the books, and then we'd have a little table in the hotel as well, quite often doing that, and we would be sort of inundated with people with various, and we could show them how to use BorrowBox and things like this. But yes, it was sensitive, but it was also for us incredibly heartwarming and moving, and just to be able to join up a lot of people and show them that we were welcoming them into our community, and tell them where some of them had already been to their local library, but we could sort of tell the ones that hadn't where it was, how to get to it. Mary, I don't know if you want to jump in.
Yeah, I would say that every library, every hotel, sorry, we've visited has been different. It's had a different group of people, a different set of needs. We've got one that's it's filled with people with disabilities of some kind. Others would be ones where it's all young men. Others are families. So it's all everyone's completely different. They were absolutely essential to helping us understand the level of what we were dealing with, because without even meaning it, you will make assumptions. And so, for example, we assumed that because we had transparent language online, that we would be able to just say to people, you could use this, and they would be able to then learn English. Missing out that massive step in between, which is actually these people cannot speak English, so therefore they cannot navigate an English website to be able to find the very expensive or not subscription that you've invested in. Hence why there was the need for the translated welcome flyers, which explained everything. It gave people that basically the door handle to step through the door into our services. Having a translator on site. So sometimes we would arrange for somebody to come with us, or we would meet somebody there. On occasion, even some of the guests have translated for us, and you do find that people will try to help each other. They'll use Google to translate as well if somebody can't read. So, for example, the translated flyers are only good if they can read. And if they can't read in their own language, then you need another way of communicating. And hence the mobile library was really useful because it's a visual aid. It really helped us to demonstrate how a library works for people who may have come from a country where they have never accessed a library. Kirsty, did you want to add anything? I know I've been talking quite a bit.
No, I was just going to say what you've just said, really, that the hotel visits were just really informative for us because and as Mary said, you know, you just sort of assume that, oh, if I tell them about this app, you know, they'll be able to use it. But of course, that's not the case if somebody only speaks Farsi, for example. One other thing I was going to mention was the other language app that we were introduced to was Say Hi, which is according to some people better than Google Translate. So, you know, that's worth taking note of as well. I don't think I've got anything to add further to you, Mary, really.
Thank you.
Except to echo Sarah as well. The partnerships that we developed have just been crucial to get into the hotels as well. And we've had really a lot of support from our partners as well.
Yes, it seems that partnerships are absolutely central to all of this in building trust. I suppose I have to ask, I mean, it's all been, you know, really inspirational and positive so far, but I feel like I have to ask if you encountered any sort of hostility from either within your council or from the wider community about the Libraries of Sanctuary programme and the work you're doing with sanctuary seekers.
I did initially put some challenges in my slide, but I took them out. But yeah, I mean, I have to be honest and say that we did, not from the council really, really on board with it, and it aligns with what they're doing. But from some members of staff, sadly, we did. When we did the training, I would say the training is analogous to, we just got the dementia, working towards it being a dementia-friendly library status with Alzheimer's Society. And for that, you do loads of dementia friends training, which tells you what it's like to have dementia. So it's not saying, it's not giving you on the job training about this is what we do for people. It's like an awareness training. And I would say the Library of Sanctuary training we did initially, John Vincent, is exactly the same. It's telling you what it's like to be applying for sanctuary, how much money you have to live on, you know, and about the legal status and everything like that. And we did get some negative feedback from people about the training, saying, why do I need to know this? This is just not 2 years of my life I'm not going to get back, was one comment. So 2 hours of my life I'm not going to get back. And whereas the Dementia Friends training was being unanimously popular across the board with everyone. And sadly, that's just a reflection of the society, isn't it? It's a cross-section of people and their views. And it just shows how important this work is to change people's views and educate and inform and build empathy. So yeah, we did.
We've been careful as well with the hotel visits. We haven't announced that we're going, and we haven't said that we've been. We just go. So it's, although that is a good news story and it's a good thing to talk about, at this point we haven't shared that. So we haven't had the chance to give people a negative chance to respond to that, I don't say. We did think when we announced the sanctuary card, we might get people complaining, why do these people get this sort of ticket when I don't? But again, so far, touch wood, there's not been anything said by anybody about that. And I think from my experience, I haven't, other than say some of the staff, and that has only been pocketed, it wasn't across the board. It's been positive. It's been a positive experience. And when people actually see, when customers have come in and they've used the tools we've given them, they get the same benefit as providing anyone supporting the library. They've actually wanted to tell us about it and been pleased with themselves and glad that they could actually signpost them or provide something that our customers have wanted and asked for.
I think we did when we made the announcement that we got the status. I think there were a few comments on social media, which I think have subsequently been hidden, that were less than positive. But then we got quite a few positive ones as well. And in fact, we got a lot of interaction with those posts, more interaction than our social media content normally gets.
And were you prepared for some poised, ready to hide the comments?
We've always had that in the back of our mind from the very beginning, is that it wouldn't always be supported by everybody. So that's always been, like you would with any activity, I suppose you risk assess and you look at, will this upset certain people in our communities and what will their reaction likely be? And I think as long as you're always keeping that in the back of your mind, you're prepared. Our social media people will always be on the lookout for negative comments, regardless of content. And to say, when we've gone out to do events or when we've put events on in the library, because the whole point of Library of Sanctuary is treating everybody the same. It's removing barriers so that we all have the same treatment. It's not really made it an us and them situation. Like our induction sessions, they're not for refugees. They are for people that are new to the county or the UK. That's how they're branded. So it's not really pointing any sort of, it's not making a division by highlighting diversity,
We've got a couple more questions in the chat, but I was just going to ask Lara actually, because it just made me think that one of the aims of Refugee Week seems to be to sort of reclaim this word, the word refugee, and sort of just change how maybe the perception of that word. Could you just tell us a little bit more about the thinking behind that, how you do it?
Yeah, definitely. So we use the term refugee because of its legal and historical significance. But I should say that we would never, we respect people's right to self-identify, and we would never put a label on anyone. So I'm aware, and we're very aware that that has different connotations for different people, and everyone's also on their own journey with, everyone's on their own journey. So that's kind of where, how and why we use refugee, but we totally respect people to use whatever they like. For example, we work with Migration Matters Festival in Sheffield, and There's a project in Northern Ireland where they prefer to use the word survivor. So it's really open. And I think that's one of the really nice things about Refugee Week is it's very fluid and can look like anything. And if it helps to be part of this umbrella festival that week, that's great. But sometimes there's Refugee Week activity happening at the beginning of the month, at the end of the month. I think we're just really fluid about, just understanding that it can't always be that week or it can't always be the same. So I think the openness really helps with the model. Did that answer your question, or have I missed part of your question, James?
No, that's perfect. I was just thinking about, this unfortunately, the word refugee, it's sort of what maybe at one point had quite a positive connotation, is maybe particularly in recent months had quite a negative connotation, whether, the one of the roles of Refugee Week is sort of reclaim that a bit. But as you say,
Yeah.
it can mean something different to different people.
Yeah, 100%. One of the things I'd also encourage people to do is we always say that no one has to ask for permission to be part of Refugee Week, but that we ask people to be aligned with the shared values and shared principles, which are, if you go to the Refugee Week website on About, you can see them. And one of them is reclaiming refugee, but there's also loads of other ones, respecting that there's not just one refugee experiences and thinking about multiplicity and plurality of experiences. And, there's not one narrative. So that kind of openness, and there's really great language there that I'd recommend if people are interested in looking more. But yeah, I think this kind of idea that it is a celebration of contributions, raising awareness, it's not a new thing. It's not like, so it's just kind of creating that deeper understanding of why people are displaced and also the challenges people face, when seeking and like navigating the really complex and nonsensical sometimes the system here in the UK, and just raising awareness. People don't know, Sarah mentioned the training that they do in terms of like the kind of access to support that people get and the daily kind of payments that people and money people have. So just like raising awareness and creating a much deeper understanding, I think that's the kind of key to having that more compassion. And I do think people are compassionate. It's just kind of, as we all know, just kind of ignorance or not being aware. So creating better conversations than we sadly see in kind of mainstream media and from more kind of central government sometimes as well.
Thank you. I think probably just got time for one more question. I can see that Ed Jewell has got a question in there around sort of selecting and managing the stock, or particularly of non-English books, and whether there's potential to involve the community members in that. So, did the Essex team want to say a little bit more about whether you're doing it already or your thoughts on that?
I don't think we have done this already. I know it's something we've talked about and thought about. We're sort of finding as we go along, and I think since we got the status, sort of find it's like the fact that we didn't manage to work in partnership with anyone from Refugee Week the last couple of years, but this year we have since we got the status, and I think it sort of kind of is solidifying things that we've been wanting to do that we'll find easier to do now. And I think also it takes quite a while to work with partners, and I think now we've got more sustained and established partnerships, we'll be able to work with them better to do this sort of thing. I mean, Mary, I don't know if you want to talk about that you've signed up someone from the reading round as a volunteer, because that's something that we did have in our next steps plan, is to get involvement of refugees or people seeking sanctuary more in terms of volunteering for us and getting involved in stock work like this.
Yeah, I mean, because the way the Books Asia get the books, they go out to the country, so you can't always get your order in, have time to speak to someone, ask them what they would like, then get that to Books Asia before they've done a shop in that country. But we were mindful if people did mention stock that they were interested in. So if they said they found something interesting and we bought English for Everyone, as a recommendation. There's a whole series, English for Everyone series, because several of our guests from Afghanistan said they found these books really useful. So that's how they helped us in our stock selection. But it's difficult because it's finding people at the right stage in their journey. For some of them, they're just straightly new to the country. They're very traumatized. They're not in a position to become volunteers, and so it's taken us a long time to build up our community connection with these groups. And as Sarah just said, we're now at the point where we're delivering events and activities with people that are a little bit more settled. They're at a position where they can open up to us, tell us their stories. And one lady in particular who takes part in our reading round is now a volunteer for us. She's now volunteering for the reading round sessions, and she's been with that particular event since the beginning. She's now done, I think, about 12 weeks, and then opened up and said, oh, I would like to look for some volunteering work. We then suggested, would she like to volunteer for this event? And this, we hope, will then lead to more volunteering, such as dual language baby and toddler story times, or even telling us and being on a stock selection panel. So it takes a little bit of time to find people who are in the right mindset to be able to then give you that information that is needed. Kirsty, did you want to add anything? No.
Also, we visited one hotel 2 or 3 times, and then we heard that they'd all been moved to Scotland. So we joined them all up and everything, and sort of established a relationship with them, and then found out they'd all en masse been moved to Scotland, as that was going to be there. Although they'd been quite some time, it's people from Afghanistan, wasn't it? Mm. But then you sort of think, oh, it's a bit of a shame in a way, but then you think, oh, well, we went there and we showed them a welcome. So now when they move to Scotland, they'll know that they can go to their local library and join up their local library and get a welcome in that community. So it's a very sort of changing population. And that was one of the challenges as well, really, is things change all the time.
Yeah, I mean, even the people that are attending my reading round sessions, they're going through the process of being biometrically tested, and in addition to that, having their interviews with the Home Office, and some of them haven't come back since having those meetings. So we don't know the outcome. We don't know why. They could have been moved on. They may be just not wanting to attend the sessions for whatever reason. They could have got a job, or they might be leaving the country again. So it is a very transitional community.
Yeah, one other thing to add to that was that one of the hotels we visited, the partners we were working with there, who'd been kind of visiting a lot longer than, you know, than our visit, they'd discovered that most of the people in that hotel were on, you know, serious antidepressants, and, you know, that's clearly something that is a big factor in people engaging.
Well, sadly, we're going to have to end it here, because I think we can go on talking about this for a very long time. So thank you very much for your insights, sharing your insights and experiences this afternoon. A particularly big thank you to Lara and Sarah, and to Mary and Kirsty for their contributions. It's been really inspiring. And thank you to Emma as well for making it all run smoothly this afternoon. Much appreciated. We're going to put this webinar on our YouTube channel, so you can watch it again if you didn't have time to make notes. And we'll be circulating Sarah's slides as well. I presume that's right, Sarah. I'll take that as a yes. So look out for those, and please do keep in touch and let us know about your plans for Refugee Week, or indeed if you decide to apply for Libraries of Sanctuary status, because we're really keen to hear about that and to share your news. So thank you very much, and goodbye.